Good evening and welcome back. Tonight we are going somewhere very small to do something very large. We are going to an island of about 11 acres off a cold northern coast, and we are going to keep one light burning until morning. It is a winter night in 1850 on the coast of Maine, in America's busiest age of sail. Out there in the dark tonight, hundreds of vessels are working this coast. Schooners full of lumber and lime, coasters full of firewood and salt fish, ships inward bound from the wide ocean, every one of them steering by a chain of small human-tended stars strung along the shore. Ours is one of them, a white stone tower on a snow-covered island, a lamp of polished brass and silvered reflectors, a keeper who climbs to it every few hours all night, every night, and his family asleep in the cottage below. Nothing will go wrong tonight. There is no storm coming. That must be said at once, and it is true. Tonight is one of the calm ones, the great majority, the nights nobody ever writes books about. A clear cold sea, a steady light, ships passing safely all night long, and everyone doing, quietly and well, exactly what they are there to do. The housekeeping, briefly, as always. If these long, quiet nights help you sleep, subscribing keeps them coming, and it genuinely helps. The player will hold your place if you drift off mid-ocean. That is all the business. The mainland can manage without us till morning. Here is the road ahead, so your mind can furl its sails. We will row out to the island at dusk and climb the tower for the lighting of the lamp. We will learn the lamp room and its clockwork, the wicks and the winding, the keeper's steady rounds. We will have supper in the cottage with his family, and see the children to bed under the sweep of the light on their ceiling. We will stand out on the gallery under the winter stars, visit a schooner passing safe in the dark, hear the log written and the stove banked, and then we will keep the watches of the night with the keeper, one by one, trimming and winding and watching, all the way to the extinguishing at dawn. Ships will pass, the light will turn, nothing else will happen at all, and the permission, as always. You are not required to stay awake with the keeper. That is the whole point of him. He stays awake so that others may sleep, sailors and children and you, and he would be the first to tell you so. If you slip under somewhere between the lamp room and the stars, the light will go on turning without you, all night, guaranteed. And that guarantee is the entire meaning of the place. So, let the bed take you like a good mooring. The sun is nearly down behind the mainland hills. The sea is going pewter and rose. And across the water, a small yellow dory is pulling for the island with the fortnight's mail and the keeper's boy at the oars. Let's go out with the tide. The island lies a mile and a half offshore, low and white with the weak snow, riding the darkening sea like a moored vessel. 11 acres of granite and spruce, a fringe of rockweed at the tide line, a small cove with a boat slip and a winch, and at the seaward end, on the highest shelf of rock, the station, the white tower, the keeper's cottage attached to it by a covered way, the oil house, the bell house, the barn hardly bigger than the cow inside it. That is the whole country we will keep tonight, and by morning you will know every path on it. The dusk is doing its winter best as we come in with the dory. The mainland hills stand black against a sky of ember and slate. The sea is calm, a long low swell only, breathing against the rocks with a sound like a great sleeper turning under quilts. Eider ducks ride the swell off the point in their winter rafts, already tucked, beaks in feathers. The spruces on the island's back wear snow along every bough, and the granite shore wears its ice collar, where the spray of colder days has frozen and stayed. Wood smoke stands up straight from the cottage chimney, amber lit at its base by the kitchen window, and the boy at the oars pulls for that window the way every soul on this coast pulls for a lit window at dusk. on the same heading as his supper. The tower above it all is 50 feet of whitewashed stone, built thick by government masons a generation ago, tapering gently, capped with the black iron lantern room whose glass panes catch the last of the west right now and burn dull gold, as if the lamp were already lit. It is not. That is the evening's whole business, and it is minutes away. From the water, the tower looks less like a building than like a person. Someone tall and calm in a white coat standing at the island's shoulder looking out to sea, which is, when you consider the matter, exactly what it is in stone. The dory grates on the slip. The boy ships his oars, hands up the mail sack and the mainland parcels, and the keeper himself comes down the icy path in his wool cap to take the painter, unhurried, sure-footed as a goat on his own granite, glancing once at the western sky and once at the sea, the two glances of his trade, reading tomorrow in one and tonight in the other, finding both to his liking. The lamp is trimmed, and the light goes round. That is our refrain tonight, and neither half of it is true yet. Both halves are about to be made true by hand, up 50 feet of spiral stairs, and we are invited. Come up the path. Mind the ice on the third step. Supper is in the window, and the sun is nearly gone. Through the covered way that joins cottage to tower, past the oilskins on their pegs and the spare lantern glass in its straw, and we are at the foot of the spiral, looking up the cool, whitewashed throat of the tower, and before we climb it with the keeper, stand a moment and let the building introduce itself, because you will climb it 5 times tonight, and it improves with acquaintance. The tower is stone through and through, walls 4 feet thick at the base, built to shoulder the full weight of a winter gale and shrug it. Inside it is as clean as a dairy, and as plain as arithmetic. The granite steps wind up around the wall, 42 of them, each tread hollowed a thumb's depth by 30 years of boots, with a rope handrail polished to silk. The whitewash is renewed every spring by regulation, and the keeper's lantern, as we climb, sends our shadows turning around the curve above us like the light's own first rehearsal. 2 landings break the climb. On the first stands the day's oil, carried up each afternoon from the oil house, warm room whale oil in its polished cans, because winter oil thickens in the cold and the cans wait here, in the tower's milder air, so the lamp drinks easily at midnight. On the second landing, the tools of the trade on their shelf, spare wicks in their papers, scissors and tweezers for the trimming, polishing cloths, the little bottle of spirits for the glass, everything ranked and exact, because this is a government light, inspected twice a year, and because the keeper was a mate on coasting schooners for 11 years and keeps his tower the way a good ship keeps her bosun's locker, a place for everything, and everything reachable in the dark. Feel the building as you climb, because it is not silent. The swell that breathes on the rocks below comes up through the granite as the faintest patient shudder, wave by wave, the sea's pulse taken through stone. The wind, light tonight, hums one low soft note somewhere in the lantern's iron. The whole tower is a still, cool, resonant instrument, and it will stand all night between the warm cottage below and the turning light above, like the neck between a body and a thinking head. 42 steps, and the iron ladder stair at the top, and then the trapdoor, and we rise through the floor into the best room in this entire series of nights. The lamp room, glass on all sides, the whole darkening world laid out around us, sea and snow and first stars, and in the center, on its pedestal under its cover, the reason for everything waiting. The lamp is trimmed, and the light goes round. 1 minute now. The sun's upper rim has just gone under the mainland hills, and the keeper is taking out his matches. There is a right hour for lighting a government lamp, and it is written in the instructions, at sunset. And the keeper has never needed the instructions, because he has the sunset in his bones. And so, at the exact ebb of the day, in the glass room above the darkening sea, the night's one essential ceremony begins. The cover comes off the apparatus and is folded away. Beneath it, the lamp stands revealed, and it is a beautiful, serious machine, kin to every faithful machine we have kept nights with. A rank of brass argand burners, each with its circular wick, each backed by its parabolic reflector of silvered copper, polished to a depth of shine you could read whether in. The whole array mounted on its rotating frame like blossoms on a carousel. The keeper checks each wick's height with a fingertip, checks the oil in each reservoir, filled at dusk, checks the free run of the frame with one gentle push. Then the match. He lights each burner in order, always the same order, seaward first, and the flames take one by one, small and blue at first, then rising, steadying, going gold as the chimneys seat over them, and the draught draws true, and reflector by reflector, the room fills. There is no way to say it smaller. Each silvered bowl gathers its flame and throws it flat and hard toward the horizon, beam upon beam as the burners light, until the lamp room is a chamber of held lightning, too bright to look at the apparatus directly. The panes gone black mirror around us, our shadows flung out over the sea. 50 feet below, the snow on the rocks turns faintly gold. A mile out, the water shows a road of glimmer. 14 miles out, at the horizon's rim, a fishing schooner's helmsman sees a star come out low and yellow exactly where his star should be, and speaks a word to his companion, and alters half a point home. Then the clockwork. The keeper stoops to the pedestal's base, fits the crank and wins, and the weight rises smooth in its channel down the tower's spine. And when he trips the lever, the frame takes up its turning, slow and silken, once around in 2 minutes, the beams wheeling out over the sea like the spokes of a golden wagon wheel, and the light, from every deck and every shore window within 14 miles, begins to do the thing it will do all night. Uvlash, darkness, Uvlash, its own name, said in its own language, over and over. I am here, I am here, I am here. The keeper stands a moment in the wheeling brightness, listening to the clockwork's soft tick and the burner's faint breath, wearing the look of a man at the start of a familiar night shift, which is what he is. Then he notes the hour on his slate for the log, and straightens the cover cloth, and starts down the 42 steps toward his supper. The lamp is trimmed, and the light goes round, as of this minute both halves true, and the refrain in service for the night. Before we follow him down to the warmth, stay one chapter in the glass room with the working light, because we will visit it all night at intervals, and it is worth knowing as its keeper knows it, by sound and smell and small routine, the way we have known every fire we ever kept. The room is octagonal, iron-ribbed, glazed with heavy panes rubbed clear as air. Around the outside runs the gallery, a railed iron balcony over the sea, snow-dusted tonight. Inside, the apparatus turns on its quiet clockwork, and the room holds a steady dry warmth from the burners, oil-sweet, brass-bright, a working warmth, the warmth of lamps, unlike any hearth and good in its own way. The light itself, this close, is not a beam but a weather, a white gold wheeling brightness that swings across the walls and away, across and away, with the regularity of a slow heartbeat. And to stand in it is to stand inside the pulse of the coast. Listen to the machine's small voices, because the keeper's ear lives by them. The clockworks tick, soft and wooden, patient as the tall clock in a certain marble hole. The faint silk of the chariot wheels the great frame rides on. The burner's low continuous breath, 8 small flames drawing air in unison. Now and then a tiny sip and gurgle as a reservoir feeds its wick. Each sound correct, each sound one strand of the audible word normal. And any change in any of them, a flutter, a squeak, a starving hiss, would reach the keeper's attention before his mind knew why. We have met this listening in a 15-year-old girl beside a bone-fed fire, in a mother beside a lodge's coals, in a furnace man's cellar. It is the same faculty exactly, the guardian's ear, tuned to a machine instead of embers tonight, and never off duty. And the glass. The keeper's other religion is the glass. Every pane inside and out is rubbed daily, because salt rides even calm air, and a night's faint film is a mile of lost light, and the reflectors are burnished on a strict rota with rouge and soft leather, never touched by a bare finger, because a fingerprint is a small permanent fog. The instructions from the lighthouse establishment say all this in their dry way, and the keeper does it the way craftsmen everywhere do the written rules of their craft, better than written, beyond the reach of inspection, for the private reason underneath all good work. Out there in the dark are men he sailed with for years, and their sons, and strangers equal to them, steering families and cargoes on the honesty of his wicks. The light is a promise made nightly, and he is the promise's whole staff. One last look at the wheeling gold, one glance at the slate, and down we go, following the smell of chowder down the spiral to the cottage, leaving the room to do its work in its own bright company. The lamp is trimmed, and the light goes round, and it will say so over our heads all evening, flash and dark, flash and dark. The calmest sentence on the whole night coast, punctuated in gold. The cottage kitchen receives us the way lit kitchens have received us in every century, all at once, warmth and lamplight and supper smell and voices. And here is the family whose island this is, and whose night we are keeping. So let us be introduced, while the chowder gets its last 10 minutes. The keeper we have met, 44, sail-hardened, deliberate, a man whose quiet has layers, 7 years deep water before the mast, then 11 a mate in the coasting trade, with the papers for both in a sea chest upstairs, come ashore to this rock 9 years ago when the light fell vacant, and his wife said yes to an island. His wife is the station's other keeper, in fact if not on paper, as the wives of this coast's lights have always been. She can trim, light, and wind as well as her husband. She has done so through 2 of his mainland absences, and 1 memorable influenza, and the establishment's inspector, a courtly man, addresses her as ma'am with a particular respect he does not spend elsewhere. She is at the stove now, and the stove, like the tower, is hers. The children are 3. The boy of the dory oars, 13, island raised since he was small, who has rowed since before he can remember and knows every ledge and eddy within a mile the way the town children know their streets. His sister, 9, the family scholar, at the table this minute with her books, Mainland school being managed by winter correspondents and a mother with standards, and the small one 4, who is under the table being a seal. There is also the cat, black with a white bib, called Ballast, who was a wharf kitten in a fish crate and has risen to first officer of the entire island, and the cow in the barn and the hens, and a tame gull with 1 bad wing whom the children call Mr. Peabody and feed against all regulation. An island family is its own small nation, and you can hear its constitution in 10 minutes of kitchen talk. The mainland is spoken of the way distant capitals are, fondly, skeptically, at one remove. The weather is not conversation here. It is the news itself. Read at dawn and dusk off the sky and the swell and the smoke of passing steamers. The light rules the calendar as the tide rules the shore. It's oil and wicks and winding threaded through every day and night, spoken of not as a duty but as a resident, almost a fourth child, the tall one, the one who never sleeps. And the sea is not scenery to any of them. It is the neighbor, the road, the larder, the danger held at bay, the sound inside every silence. The thing all island talk returns to the way a compass needle settles. The chowder is ready. The lamps are bright on the white cloth. Above the roof, through the ceiling, through the whole house, faint and regular as a pulse. The light sweeps its gold over the island, and nobody looks up, because it is as much a part of the room as the stove's warmth, and as trusted. The lamp is trimmed, and the light goes round, and its keeper's family sits down to supper directly underneath it, the safest lit table in America. Supper on the island is chowder, and it deserves the word ceremony, as much as anything the mansion served on its crimson-walled evenings, because it is built from this family's own world, and every spoonful says where they live. The chowder is haddock, taken by the boy off the ledges this very forenoon, jigged up through cold green water with red hands and great professional composure. Salt pork from the barrel in the cellar, tried out golden in the bottom of the pot. Potatoes from the island's own sandy patch, grown in seaweed-fed soil and stored in the dark beside the apples. Milk from the barn's one-horned citizen, ship's biscuit alongside, and the whole of it brought together slow on the stove's steady top with bay leaf and patience by a woman who has made it 1,000 times and still tastes it twice before serving, which is the whole difference in cooking and in lighthouse keeping, between routine and care. Listen to the island's supper, because it has its own music. And by now, so many suppers into our travels, you will know the tune. Spoons on crockery, the stove's soft drawer, the little one, surfaced from sealhood, blowing on her bowl with theatrical caution, the boy giving the day's water news, a raft of eiders working the point, ice making in the cove's north corner, the schooner traffic light and standing well off, the scholar reporting, upon request, one fact from the day's book. Tonight the news that the earth travels round the sun at an unthinkable speed, which the family receives with respect while the kitchen sails its own steady 3 knots of lamplight and chowder steam, demonstrably still. The keeper says little and misses nothing, in the manner of keepers and fathers both. And when he does speak it is to confirm the boy's ice report with one nod, which is, from him, publication. And notice what sits in the middle of all this ordinary richness. The window, the kitchen's seaward window, is never curtained after dark, by island custom old as the light itself, and its lamp is set on the sill deliberately, a small second beacon under the great one, so that the cottage itself has a heartbeat the boats can see. On this coast, a lit shore window is a private courtesy, the way the tower is a public one, and there are fishermen in the harbor 2 miles down who could tell you, chart-accurate, which kitchen windows of which islands have warmed which cold homecomings of their lives. Nobody teaches this. The coast simply keeps its lamps where they can be seen, all of it, cottage and tower alike, one habit at 2 sizes. The bowls are wiped with biscuit, the pot scraped honorably. The cat paid her lawful tithe of haddock skin at the stove's corner. Overhead felt more than seen. The light wheels on, the lamp is trimmed, and the light goes round, and below it, the lit window holds its own small steady watch over the cove. And between the two of them, the island says to the whole dark sea what supper tables have always said: here, warmth, come in safe. Bedtime on the island happens under a wheeling golden ceiling, and it is worth climbing the cottage stairs with the children to see it, because no nursery we have visited in any century sleeps inside a kinder machine. The children's room is under the eaves on the seaward side, low-ceiled, warm from the kitchen chimney that passes up through its corner, and every 2 minutes all night, the tower's beam crosses its window and sweeps one soft bar of gold across the sloped ceiling, corner to corner, gone. The children have slept inside that slow pulse all their lives. The little one calls it the lion, for no reason anyone has found, and watches for it as she is tucked in, and is asleep most nights before its fourth passing. The scholar has measured it with the kitchen clock and can tell you its period to the second, and privately, not being too old for it, still counts a few crossings herself on the way down. The boy, 13, claims to notice it not at all, and last winter, sick with a fever on the mainland at his aunt's, could not sleep for 3 nights in a room whose ceiling, he finally admitted, just lay there. The going down is the going down of everywhere, island-flavored. Prayers said, quickly and sincerely, with a codicil for all at sea appended nightly, as it has been appended on this coast for 200 years. A chapter read aloud by the mother from the current book. See story by unanimous standing vote. Ended midcliff with professional cruelty to guarantee tomorrow's appetite. Drinks of water administered, the seal permitted one last bark, the lamp carried out, and the door left open its customary hand's width to let the stairs' warmth and the kitchen's murmur come up. And then the room belongs to the breathing and the beam. Gold bar crossing the ceiling, darkness, gold bar, darkness. The light counting the children sleep the way the drum tower counted a city's watches. The way the hall clock counted a mansion's, patient, faithful, all night. Think what that ceiling teaches, without one word ever being said. The light that crosses it is their father's work, wound by his hands, fed by his climbing, and it crosses every 2 minutes whether the night is kind or cruel, which means every child in that room falls asleep inside the nightly proof that their father keeps his promises, and that promises kept look like light, arriving on schedule all night long. There are worse foundations to build a person on. There may be none better. The mother stands a moment at the door, counting breaths by long habit, 3 sleepers, correct, then goes down to her mending and her lamplit kitchen. The lamp is trimmed, and the light goes round, and its smallest and most faithful congregation is asleep under the sloped ceiling, lying guarded, promise-lit, until morning. The island's evening now settles into its long middle, and it looks, allowing for salt, exactly like every winter evening we have kept in every century, the lamplit table, the work in the hands, the quiet talk, and it deserves its unhurried chapter, because this hour is where the station's real life lives. The keeper has the log. Every light on this coast keeps one, by regulation, and its entries are a masterpiece of the plain style. He writes with the stub pen in his big careful hand, the day's facts and no others. Wind northwest light, weather clear cold, sea smooth. Lamp lighted at 6 minutes past 4. Supplies received per dory, all in good order. Nothing further remarkable. 30 years of such volume stand on the shelf above the desk. His own 9 and his predecessors before him. And they are, though no one here would use the word, a literature. Open any volume anywhere and the same voice speaks. Calm, exact, incorruptible. 10,000 nights of wind and weather and lamp lighted and lamp extinguished. The heartbeat of the station taken nightly in ink. The historians of another age will read these shelves, the way they read the winter counts and the monastery annals and a tang clerk's grain registers. And they will be right too, because it is the same document in every century. The keeping written down, the proof that somebody watched. Across the lamp the mending. The wife has the work basket, And tonight it is the boy's oilskin jacket wanting a new cuff lining before the deep cold, and stockings in their eternal rotation. And her needle goes in the lamplight with the same sure economy as the needles of the bone house and the lodge, and the mansion's linen room. The same stitch, truly across 25,000 years, drawn tonight through waxed sailcloth instead of reindeer hide. The boy oils the rowlocks and splices an eye in new dory line, learning grade work checked by a mate's eye without appearing to be checked. The scholar has the slate and the day's last sums, and the lamp between them all burns whale oil, wicked and trimmed by the same hands that keep the great one upstairs, a little sister light for the family's own small harbor of a table, and through it the talk, low-tide talk unhurried, whether the ice will close the Cove's north corner by Sunday, whether the collector of customs will send the new signal flags before the inspector's spring visit, word from the mainland letters, a cousin's wedding, wool prices, the new minister's sermons running long. Twice, without anyone breaking sentence, the keeper's eye goes to the clock, and the second time he rises mid-remark, takes his lantern, and goes up the 42 steps to trim and wind, and is back inside the quarter hour with the cold of the tower on his coat, and the talk closes over his absence like water, because his going and coming is no more remarked here than the beam on the ceiling. It is the house's pulse, and the house lives inside it. The lamp is trimmed, and the light goes round, written in the log now in the plain style, and the evening leans on toward the children's hour of the grown-ups, which on this island is 9 o'clock, and early and earned. Before the mending hour closes, give the scholar her chapter, because the island school is in session at the kitchen table every winter evening, and the sight of it, one child at the books tonight, one lamp, one determined mother, is worth more than it looks, and it looks like a great deal. The mainland school is 1.5 miles of winter water away, and so from November to April the island teaches itself. The system is the coast's own, worked out by lighthouse families and fishermen's wives over generations. The books come out from the town at the fall's last easy crossings, readers and copybooks, a geography with maps that the boy has sailed the edges of, an arithmetic, and the mother sets the lessons and hears them, evening by evening, with the same steadiness she brings to the bread sponge. And the minister's wife, who was a schoolteacher, checks the copybooks monthly when the weather serves, and returns them with remarks in a hand like engraving. It is a thin thread of a school, by city standards. It is also, the record of this coast shows plainly enough. Islands like this one have sent boys to the academies and girls to the normal schools on exactly this table, exactly this lamp. Tonight is geography, and the geography of a light keeper's daughter is its own subject. She knows the capitals as required, but she knows other things besides, things the mainland children never learn. She knows the light lists, her father's other Bible, and can recite the characteristics of every light from here to the Cape, fixed, flashing, red sector, fog signal, the whole coast strung through her memory like beads on a string. She knows why the tides come twice, and why the winter stars differ from summers, from her father, from the gallery rail, on clear nights when a lesson leaves the table and climbs the tower. And she has begun, this winter, the island specialty, the keeping of records. Her own small weather journal stands on the shelf beside the station log, ruled in her mother's hand, filled in her own improving one. Wind and glass and temperature, morning and evening, kept faithfully since October. It is practice penmanship officially. It is also, though nobody says so, an apprenticeship in the family trade, which is not lighthouse keeping exactly but faithfulness itself, written down, The lesson ends with a chapter of the geography read aloud. Tonight the great rivers of the world, and the little one, who is supposed to be asleep and is instead at the stair door in a nightgown, is permitted 10 minutes on her father's knee to hear about the Nile, which floods on schedule, like a well-kept lamp, and everyone in this kitchen finds that entirely reasonable behavior in a river. The lamp is trimmed, and the light goes round, and at the table beneath it the island's whole school, Enrollment 3, does its evening work by one lamp's light and does it well, and the wide world arrives nightly at this small table in good order, one read-aloud chapter at a time. At the foot of the keeper's bed stands a sea chest of dark wood with rope beckets, and one evening Errantonite sends the boy to it for the spare log slates, so its lid is open for a minute in the lamplight, and a minute is enough, because a sea chest is a biography in objects, and this one tells the keepers, and it is worth the reading. The chest went a sea when the keeper did, at 17, and its contents have settled over the years into strata, like the island's own rock. At the bottom the deep layers, his indenture papers and his mate's certificate, folded in oilcloth, the little brass-cornered box with his mother's letters, kept every one, a palm and sail needles, a fid, a marlinspike worn bright, the working tools of a trade that lives now in his hands rather than his employment. For the island's ropework and canvas are all his doing, and done ship-shape, a chart of the Bay of Bengal, soft as cloth at the folds, annotated in his young man's hand, and pressed flat inside it, brittle and faintly fragrant still, a spray of some flowering thing from a hillside above a harbor on the far side of the world, put there by a young mate for reasons the older man declines to examine and has never once removed. Above that the middle years, a daguerreotype of his wife in the little velvet case, taken on the mainland a few winters back, looking levelly out at the future with the expression the keeper maintains she has worn since their wedding day. A child's first boot, singular, its mate lost famously overboard at the slip, certificates of appointment, the establishment seal heavy on good paper, a Bible with the family page filling, births in 2 hands, no deaths yet on the island's watch, and the keeper, no great man for church, keeps that page the way he keeps the light, and at the top, the working layer, spare slates and the good sextant in its case, taken out on clear evenings to shoot a star with the boy, for practice, for pleasure, for the handing on. The boy lifts the slates out carefully, sees the chest's ordered world as he has seen it all his life, half museum, half toolkit, and closes the lid on it with the unthinking reverence the young give to the evidence that their parents were once, unimaginably, young themselves, and at large upon the world. Every household of all our winters has kept such a vessel somewhere, a tally on ivory, a winter count on hide, a founder's account book under glass. The chest is this island's, a life, stowed seaman-like, ballast and treasure together, at the foot of the bed where its owner sleeps between it and the sea. The lamp is trimmed, and the light goes round, and the chest keeps its quiet cargo beneath the turning of the beam, the keeper's whole voyage so far, boxed, folded, dry and safe in harbor. On the kitchen wall, between the clock and the window, hangs the island's oracle, and it is consulted with more ceremony than anything else in the house. So before the family sleeps, watch the evening reading taken, because the weather glass is the island's one instrument of prophecy, and this coast trusts it the way farmers trust the almanac, and the Tang court trusted its astronomers. It is a marine barometer in a brass case, mercury in glass, swung on gimbals like a compass, the keeper's own from his sailing years, older than the marriage. The evening reading is his office. He taps the glass once, gently with a knuckle, the tap every barometer owner on Earth performs and no manual has ever required. Watches the Mercury's small decision, steady tonight, high and steady, and enters it on the slate with wind and sky. And the whole night's forecast is contained in that entry, and it is a good one. High glass north air, clear and cold and quiet. The coast can sleep on it, but the glass is only the senior partner in a firm of signs, and the island reads them all, continuously. The way the Lakota camp read the snow and the herds, the way every world of ours read its sky, the look of the sunset, tonight clean-edged and cold rose fair, the behavior of the smoke, standing straight fair, the sound of the sea, and this is the subtlest of the island's instruments. For the surf on the outer ledges speaks differently before weather, a deeper, irregular grumble that the family hears without listening, the way you hear your own name. And tonight the ledges are talking small and even fair. The gulls sitting easy on the water, the seals unbothered on their ledges, the cat making her unhurried outdoor rounds at all, which she declines to do before weather. Every creature on the island casting its silent vote for a quiet night, and the votes counted, without anyone counting, in the keeper's settled shoulders. When the signs disagree, the island prepares, without drama, in an afternoon boats hauled higher, shutters looked to, extra oil carried up, the fog bells machinery wound, and the family sleeps as soundly before a gale as before a calm. Because readiness, we have learned in every century, is the true lullaby, and worry is only the name for readiness that was skipped. But tonight there is nothing to prepare. The glass is high, the ledges talk small, the night is bespoke fair, ordered and confirmed, the lamp is trimmed, and the light goes round, and on the kitchen wall the mercury holds its silver column high and steady in the lamplight. The island's one prophet, promising, in the only language it has, a quiet night and a bright cold morning, and it has rarely been wrong, and it is not wrong tonight. Twice a year, spring and fall, a certain schooner works up the coast with the establishment's flag at her main, and though she is months away tonight, her cargo is all around us in every room. So give her a drowsy chapter of gratitude, the way we gave the coal road and the milk train theirs, because the island's whole winter rides on her autumn call. She is the lighthouse tender, and her rounds are the strangest and steadiest trade on the coast, port to lonely port, rock to rock, island to island, serving the whole family of lights. Her hold, when she stood in last October, was the island's next 6 months in kind. The oil casks first, swung up the slip on the derrick, the winter's light itself in barrel form, the year's coal, and a deckload of good dry cordwood, flour and pork, molasses and tea, the government's plain allowances and the family's own ordered stores alongside, the new wicks and chimneys and polish, the spare panes packed in straw, the paint and putty of the spring refit, the winter's books and the school supplies, a crate of apples, the rolled copy of the year's revised light list, and at the bottom of one barrel, unlisted on any manifest, the small private freight the tender's crew carries for keepers' families all up and down the coast, a doll from an aunt in Portland, seeds from a cousin's garden, the mainland's love, packed in sawdust, delivered twice a year. Her arrival is the island's great festival of logistics. All hands turn out, the derrick creaks all forenoon, the cellar and the oil house fill shelf by shelf. The captain takes his dinner at the cottage table with the year's news of every light family on the route, who has a new baby at the Rock, who has retired from the Point, which stations came through the March Gale hurt, and by evening she is hull down toward the next lonely lamp with the whole island squared away behind her. Provision to the spring. Every full shelf, a small guarantee of every quiet night to come. The keeper's family speaks of her the way farm families speak of harvest, as the years hinge. And tonight, months from her next call, her work is what the calm is made of. The oil in the lamp overhead came up her gangway, the flour in the rising bread sponge, the coal under the kettle, the very slate the log is kept on, all hers, all landed in a single busy October day, against exactly this deep December night, so that a family on 11 acres of granite can sit down to chowder in a snowstorm, with 5 months of enough between them and any worry. The lamp is trimmed, and the light goes round, on tender-born oil, in a tower stocked to the spring. And somewhere down the coast tonight that same schooner lies at her winter wharf, dreaming, if vessels dream, of her long faithful mill-crowned of lights, every one of them burning at this hour on what she brought. The dory brought more than parcels at dusk. It brought the mail sack, the island's fortnightly feast of paper, and after the log and the lessons it is opened at the kitchen table with the deliberation great occasions deserve. So draw up to the lamplight, because mail on an island is not what mail is ashore. It is an event with a date. The sack yields its cargo onto the white cloth. 3 letters, a newspaper, and the winter's second catalogue. The letters are dealt like good cards. One for the wife from her sister in Rockland, fat, cross-written to save postage, holding a month of mainland family in one dense woven page, babies and prices and the new pew assignments, to be read tonight, reread tomorrow, and mined for a week. One for the keeper from the establishment's district office, thin and formal, acknowledging his quarterly returns, filed after one read with the government's other thin formalities, and one in a boy's blunt hand for the boy, from his summer chum at the harbor, reporting a fox seen on the neck, a new sled, and the fervent wish for the bay to freeze solid. Read by its recipient 3 times at the table with his ears going slowly red with pleasure. The newspaper is a week old, and none the worse for it. News ripens well on the way to an island. The keeper reads the shipping columns first, as the whole coast does, arrivals and clearances, vessels spoken at sea, the slow great traffic of the age reported like weather, and reads out the items that touch the family's world. A ship gone up for the Liverpool trade whose mate he sailed with, Lime Freight's firm, a new light authorized down east. The wife takes the paper next for the wider world and the prices, and the scholar will have it last and entire by lamplight tomorrow. Columns of a world she has never seen. Read on a rock she knows to the last ledge, which is how wide minds are made on small islands and always has been. And the letters get their answers begun the same night, because the dory goes back Thursday, and an unanswered letter on an island is a boat missed. The wife's reply starts its own cross-written voyage at the table's end, steel pen scratching softly. The sister's month answered with the islands, eiders and lessons and the ice making in the Cove, the small news of 11 acres sent out to stand for everything, which, as we learned at a mansion's letter tray and a tang post station, is what the mails of every age have really carried. Not information, presence. I am here, you are there, the thread holds. The lamp is trimmed and the light goes round, and beneath it the island's thin, bright thread to the world lies spread on the supper cloth. 3 letters strong tonight, every one of them warm. Every world of ours has had its hour of low music, the bone flute, the lodge songs, the daughter at the piano, the wine shop's bad ballad, and the island keeps the custom too. So before the children are quite lost to sleep, listen. The concertina has come down off its shelf. It is the keeper's, bought in Valparaiso half a lifetime ago, bone buttons worn smooth, bellows patched once with sailcloth, and it is played the way he does everything, steadily, without flourish, and better than he will admit. He plays at the kitchen's edge of lamplight with his chair tipped to the wall, and what he plays first is what sailors play. The old forbidders and capstan tunes gone gentle ashore, songs that once hauled anchors, slowed now to rocking pace. Their working iron all softened into evening gold. The wife hums the airs she has hummed for 15 years, while her needle keeps its own time. The boy asks, as he always asks, for the one about the whale, and gets it, and mouths the words he thinks his parents do not know he knows. Then the slower turn, as the evening leans, a hymn or two, the spare shore-meeting kind this coast raises its children on, sung low in 2 parts, the wife's alto under the melody, like a keel under a hull, an air from somewhere in the keeper's voyages, never named, minor and rocking, that the family calls simply the far one and asks for on winter nights, and which the keeper plays looking at the stove's chrome, with the expression of a man looking a good deal further than that. And last, by iron custom, the little one's song, the same 4 verses about a boat and a star that have ended the island's musical evenings since she was born, played half volume now, aimed up the stairs at the sleeping rooms like a lamp turned low, the bellows breathing softer and softer until the tune is mostly air, and then it is only air, and the concertina is folded shut with its small sighing chord, and the evening's music is over. No one applauds tonight or ever. That was never its office. The island's singing is not a performance, but a banking of the day's fire. The household's warmth folded down into tune for the night, and its audiences are always asleep before the end. That is, as the grandmother of another winter told us of her stories, the very best door to leave through. Upstairs, 3 children have gone down inside the music the way coast children go down inside the surf sound, carried, and will not remember hearing it end, because for them it never does. The lamp is trimmed, and the light goes round, and the last breath of the far one is still somewhere up under the cottage roof with the wood smoke, taking its time about leaving, as the last of a song always should. One more store is laid up in this cottage against the winter, and it is stacked nowhere the inspector could find it. So let us count it too before the household sleeps, the way we counted a plains camp's coming dance, because the island is keeping, the way one keeps a covered dish, the bright certainty of the Christmas to come. It is 10 days off, and the plans are long since ratified, if the weather serves, and the glass is consulted daily on the point with unusual courtesy. The whole family crosses on the day before, the light being tended that one night by 9 years' sworn exchange, by the keeper's brother-in-law, who was a fisherman and does it well, and the island family sleeps ashore, in the grandmother's tall house behind the harbor, in beds that do not rise and fall, which the children find hilarious and slightly wrong. There will be the meeting-house greens and the candle service, cousins in ranks, the long tables, the grandmother's goose and her ginger cakes, and for the children the whole packed paradise of a harbor village in festival, sleds and skates and other children in quantity. The one crop 11 acres cannot raise. The preparations are already deep underway on both shores. In the cottage loft, where certain drawers are understood to be sovereign territory, there are knitted things hidden in wool batting, and a ship model the keeper has been quietly rigging behind the woodshed since October, spar by tiny spar, for a boy who believes his father spends that hour on barrel hoops. The wife's dried apple pies will cross the bay in a padded crate like state treasure. The scholar has copied out a recitation. The little one has been coached in one verse of one carol and performs it nightly to the cat, who receives it, on the whole, favorably. And ashore in the tall house, a room is already aired for them, and a goose already spoken for. And the grandmother, who watches the island's light from her landing window every night of her life, is counting the 10 days too, on her own calendar, in her own hand. Anticipation, we said once in a lodge in the snow, is a food, and winter is when our kind lays it in. The island has it laid in now, 10 days deep, and the whole family will sleep toward it tonight the way the camp slept toward the drums, borrowing a little of the feast's warmth ahead of time, which is what feasts are for, and why every world we have wintered in set one burning in the darkest month like a lamp. The lamp is trimmed, and the light goes round, and 10 days east of tonight a tall house behind the harbor is already warming its spare room, and the two shores of this small family's world are dreaming their way toward each other, night by night, like boats on one tide. Before the household sleeps, the keeper makes his stores round, lantern in hand, and we will go with him, because a light station is a small fortress of supply, and its magazines are worth seeing. And the first of them, the little stone house standing apart in the snow, holds the light's own food. The oil house is built of granite, fireproof by design, set away from tower and cottage by regulation prudence. And inside, on stout shelves, the winter's whale oil waits in its ranked casks and cans. It came by the Supply Schooner in the fall, hoisted up the slip in a slung barrel with the whole family turned out for the derrick work, and it is the station's most carefully husbanded treasure. The keeper gauges it weekly with a dipstick and an accountant's face, logs the consumption to the gill, and carries the next day's ration to the tower each afternoon to warm, because thick winter oil starves a wick, and a starved wick is a dim light, and a dim light on this coast is a broken promise. Stand in the cold stone room a moment among the casks, and think, as the keeper sometimes does, about where the light's food comes from, because there is a supply line behind this lamp, as long as any we have traced. The oil in these casks was rendered on the decks of whale ships in oceans on the far side of the world, the Pacific grounds, 2 years from home port and back, and it came ashore in New Bedford and Nantucket in a forest of casks, and was gauged and sold and shipped down east in coasting vessels, to lie at last in this granite hut on this snowy island, waiting to become candle power for a Maine winter's nights. Some sailor tried out this very oil by a tropic moon. Some cooper knocked these staves together thinking of his supper. The world provisions its lights the way it provisions its cities, hand over hand over hand, and no one in the chain ever sees the beam their labor becomes, and the beam shines 14 miles regardless, faithful to all of them. The round continues, lantern swinging, the woodshed ranked deep with split spruce and birch, the winter's warmth counted in cords like the bone house's stack, and the mansion's cellar dune, the cellar under the cottage, apples and potatoes, the pork barrel, the preserves on their shelves in soldier rows, salt fish in the locker, flour in the tight bins, provisions for 5 months if the boat stopped, which they will not, but an island keeps its arithmetic like a ship, and sleeps better for it. The barn last, the cow drowsing warm in her deep straw, the hens a feathered shelf of small murmurs, Mr. Peabody the gull roosting one-legged on the sill he has annexed, all hatches closed, all souls accounted. The lamp is trimmed, and the light goes round, and beneath it the island's larders stand full and locked and frosted, keel to masthead. Another winter household squared away in the oldest way there is. Enough gathered kept. Now leave the island for one chapter, as we left the lodge for the herd and the mansion for the avenue, and go out, weightless, over the dark, calm water, 2 miles east to the deck of the schooner Abigail, coasting south with lumber, because the whole meaning of tonight's light is best read from out here, where it arrives. The Abigail is a working schooner, 2 masts, deck loaded with sawn spruce, 6 hands and a cook, making a fair 4 knots on the light northwest air. Her decks are frosted, her rigging wears a little snow lace, her sidelights burn red and green in their boxes, and her helmsman, a square man in a buffalo coat with his beard frozen to his muffler, stands his trick at the wheel in the settled comfort of a man on a known road in fine weather. And the road is known because it is lit. Look with him, astern, sunk to a loom on the horizon, the flash of the Cape light he ran down all afternoon, broad on the port bow, ours, our own island's beam, wheeling its 2-minute signature, the exact light promised in the exact place at the exact rhythm printed in the light list below in the cabin, and far ahead, faint as a rising star, the next light of the chain, just lifting over the curve of the world to take the Abigail on when ours lets her go. This is what the coast looks like to the men who work it at night, and it is worth lying still and seeing it whole. Not darkness with a lamp in it, a lit corridor, a hallway of named stars strung 400 miles down east to Boston Bay, each star flashing its own name, each handing the traveler to the next, so that a schooner runs the whole coast of a winter night, the way a child runs a dark house's hallway from night light to night light, never out of sight of a kept flame. The helmsman takes our beams bearing over the compass, speaks it to the mate, and the Abigail's place on the black water is fixed to a fraction, her ledges known, her clearance sure, and the watch below sleeps on in their bunks, boots off, unconcerned. Because the coast is doing tonight what the coast's keepers have promised, it will always do. The mate, going below, pauses at the companionway and looks at our light a long moment, the way sailors do look at lights, and what is in his face is not sentiment. It is the settled trust of a working man in other working men, the same trust the city sleeper puts in the watchman's clapper, the caravan in the ward gate, the child in the ceiling's golden bar. Somebody is keeping it. It has never once not turned. The lamp is trimmed, and the light goes round, and the Abigail stands on south through the calm dark with her lumber and her sleeping watch, one of some hundreds of vessels this night, on this coast, being walked down the lit hallway, safe past all the granite in Maine. Stand on the gallery rail, a moment with the keeper's own knowledge, and look up and down the dark coast at the neighbors, because our island is not alone tonight. And knowing its company is knowing the whole gentle system this night runs on. To the northeast, beyond the black loom of the outer islands, the Cape light flashes its own slow signature, kept tonight by a man the keeper has met twice in 9 years and knows, in the way that matters, absolutely. To the southwest, the harbor light at the river mouth burns fixed and steady, kept by a widow who took the station on when her husband drowned hauling trawls. She has kept it 14 years since, and is spoken of down the whole coast in the tone reserved for the entirely reliable. Beyond them both, out of sight over the curves of the world, the chain runs on, light answering light past every cape and bay, kept this same night by the same kind of people, old mates and fishermen's widows and steady families, each on their own rock, each with their own lamp trimmed and their own log ruled, none of them able to see more than 2 of the others, all of them holding hands in the dark by beam alone, the way the ward lanterns held the city, the way the far band's spark answered the bone house across the frozen valley. The whole coast at night is one long conversation of kept promises, spoken in flashes, understood by everyone at sea. The keeper reads his two neighbors each night at winding time the way you glance at your own hearth, unconsciously, completely. Cape light turning, harbor light burning, all's well, the chain whole. Twice in 9 years he has seen a neighbor light falter, once for a broken clockwork mended within the hour, once for a chimney fire fought and beaten by the widow and her daughters before the relief boat could even be launched, and both times the coast knew by morning, not as gossip but as the tightening of a shared thing, the way a village hears one of its wells went brackish. The lights are individual stations by law, and one single instrument by nature, and every keeper on the list knows both facts in the marrow, and there is a fellowship in the arithmetic of it that suits the hour. Perhaps 40 souls on the whole 400 miles of this coast tonight are awake on purpose in glass rooms above the sea, trimming and winding, logging and watching, so that some thousands may sail asleep, and some hundreds of thousands may lie ashore and never think of the sea at all. 40 wakeful people, strung down a winter coast like the last embers of one long fire, keeping the dark honest. You have met them all before. They were the fire keeper, the gatekeeper, the furnace man, the monk of the night office, the boy under the cottonwood. It is always the same 40, in every century. It is always enough. The lamp is trimmed, and the light goes round, and to the northeast and southwest its two visible companions answer, each on its own rhythm. The nearest words of the long, bright sentence the coast writes across every clear winter night. Below the tower on the seaward rocks stands a small peaked house with a great bronze bell hung at its face, and tonight it is silent, and its silence is one of the luxuries of a clear night. So let us visit it the way one visits a sleeping guardian, quietly, with respect, and count what its silence is worth. This is the fog bell, and it is the light's voice for the nights when light is useless. When the thick weather comes in off the banks, gray wool to the windowsills, beams swallowed within a cable's length, the bell takes the watch. Inside the little house is its machinery, a clockwork of weights and gearing that the keeper winds like the lamps, and when it is set going, the striker takes up the rhythm printed for this station in the lists. 1 blow, then 10 seconds, then 1 blow, hour upon hour, the bronze voice rolling out low over the water to say in sound what the lamp says in gold. I am here, I am here. Every station's bell speaks its own timing, as every light flashes its own name, and the schooner men navigate the wool-blind nights by ear, watch in hand, counting the seconds between blows, reading the invisible coast like men reading a familiar dark room by its clocks. Bell nights are the trade's hard nights, and the keeper does not romance them. The machinery wants winding every few hours. The damp gets into everything. The sound, however faithful, is a strain on the shore nerves in a way the silent beam never is. And when the striker once froze mid-storm, 3 winters back, the keeper and his wife stood watches at the bell rope themselves, 2 hours on and 2 off until morning, striking the station's rhythm by the kitchen clock, by hand all night, because the rhythm is the promise, and the promise does not get nights off. It is the only story from this island that ever made the mainland paper, 4 lines, and the keeper's sole recorded comment was that the bell was struck regular, which the schooner men who heard it through that wool already knew. But tonight, none of it. Tonight the air is glass clear, the beam is running 14 honest miles, and the bell hangs dark and dumb in its little house with the snow on its shoulder, off duty, a silent bronze mercy. The keeper still looks in on his round, lays a hand once on the cold metal, checks the striker's poise and the weight's wind. Ready is ready, and latches the door on it kindly. The lamp is trimmed, and the light goes round, and the bell sleeps in its house like a watchdog by a quiet door, and every soul on the water tonight is glad of its silence, and every soul would be gladder still to know how instantly it would wake. At 9, with the household settling below, the keeper takes his longest look of the night, the slow one, from the gallery rail outside the lamp room, and it is the best view on this coast, and possibly in this whole series of our nights. So climb the 42 steps one more time and come out the little iron door into the cold with him. And look, the night is stone still and diamond clear, the kind of cold that makes the stars swarm, and they do swarm horizon to horizon, over a sea like polished slate, the great winter figures standing high and hard, the star river running its pale road south, the whole enormous ceiling doubled faintly in the calm water, so that the island seems moored not on the sea but in the middle of the sky. The mainland lies northwest, a low black whaleback with a scatter of last-lit windows dying out along it, farm by farm. As the coast goes to bed, the two neighbor lights hold their appointed names, the cape flashing to the northeast, the harbor burning steady to the southwest. The snow on the island below glows soft blue, printed with the day's one set of paths, cottage to slip, cottage to barn, cottage to oil house. The whole small country's traffic legible at a glance, and every 2 minutes, silent, enormous. The beam swings past overhead like the boom of some vast, slow vessel coming about, gilding the underside of its own faint breath fog, wheeling out over the water, and away. The keeper stands at the rail in his greatcoat, mittened hands on the frosted iron, and does the thing he privately calls taking the weight of the evening. Sky read, glass steady, swell easing, tomorrow fair. Sea read, riding lights of 2 coasters far out, all standing well off. The Abigail's stern lantern a spark now, going down the southwest. Island read, 1 lit window, his own, smoke straight, all fast. It is the same triple reading the Lakota mother took at her lodge door, the same the walnut-faced gatekeeper took at his ward. The whole world audited in one slow look by the person on watch, and found tonight once again in order. He does not hurry back in. That is worth recording about him. A man 9 years on 11 acres who has seen this exact view some 3,000 nights, stands in fierce cold at a frosted rail looking at it for the pure sake of looking, his breath going up in silver, the beam wheeling over him, the stars wheeling over the beam, everything in the visible universe, near and far, turning slow and shining and keeping its appointed time. There are men in the cities who would call his post a lonely exile. He has a word for what it is instead, and he has never said it aloud to anyone but his wife, once early, by this same rail. The word was front row. The lamp is trimmed, and the light goes round, and above it the older lights go round too, the ones no keeper has ever had to wind. And for a few minutes at the rail the two systems turn together, in step, as if the tower were simply the nearest star, the one this family was given to keep. At midnight the keeper's little alarm, which is only the habit of 9 years and needs no clock, opens his eyes in the dark bedroom, and the night's central errand begins. So rise with him quietly, because the midnight winding is the hinge of the whole dark, and it is worth doing once at his shoulder. He dresses by feel, wool and more wool, and goes up through the sleeping house with his shaded lantern, through the covered way where the cold waits like still water, and up the 42 steps, his boots finding the hollows their own soles helped wear. The tower hums its one low note. The swell's faint shudder comes up through the granite, wave and wave and wave, and then the trapdoor and the lamp room's wheeling gold receives him, warm and oil-sweet and orderly, exactly as he left it at the 9 o'clock trimming, which is the entire object of his profession, and still, after 3,000 nights, quietly pleasing to him. The work is 20 minutes, unhurried. The clockwork first, the crank fitted. The weight brought up its long channel from near the tower's foot to its high mark. The lights turning, never faltering while he winds, because the mechanism is made for exactly this, tended without interruption, like a heart. Then the wicks, each burner visited with the trimming scissors, the charred crown of each wick taken off clean so the flame sits full and smokeless. The small scissors flash repeated 8 times in the brightness. The oldest gesture of his trade, the one the whole profession is named for in the sailor's fond old phrase, the trimming of the lamps, reservoirs topped from the warm can, chimneys inspected for smoke ghost, and wiped where breathed on, a pane of the lantern glass, catching frost feathers at its lower corner, cleared with the spirit cloth. The log slate noted, wind gone to north, light air clear, all well. And then, because he is who he is, the minute at the glass, not required by any regulation. He stands at the seaward panes, with the beams wheeling over his shoulders, and reads his dark parish once around, the 2 neighbor lights burning their appointed rhythms, a late coaster's lantern well offshore, the mainland black and asleep, the sea breathing slow. Somewhere out there the Abigail is an hour past the next cape by now, handed on safely, someone else's lamp on her bow. He gives the night, this one long professional look, the way the mother of every household we have kept gave her sleeping rooms the last look, counting without counting, and then he goes down to his warm bed and is asleep in minutes, with the light turning faithfully above him and 3 hours on the clock before he does it all again. The lamp is trimmed, and the light goes round. At midnight the sentence is renewed by hand, like a vow, 8 small flames at a time. The keeper keeps the tower, but the island keeps a second watch all night, and it is hers, and it is time we said so plainly, because the wife's watch has no log and no inspector, and it has held this station together for 9 years, and every world we have visited has run on its exact equivalent. She wakes when he wakes, at the midnight winding, not fully, just to the surface, the way the mothers of all our nights surface, and lies listening while his boots go up the spiral, counting his climb by the faint sounds the house gives her. The covered way's door, the 3rd step's particular creak, the far dim thump of the trapdoor. She hears the 20 minutes of his work as a silence with a shape to it, and hears him down again, and cold-footed into bed again, and only then does she let go and go deep, her watch relieved by the completion of his. If some night the shape of that silence went wrong, if the boots went up and the trapdoor did not thump, she would be on the stairs herself inside 2 minutes with the spare lantern, and they both know it, and it has never once been needed, and that is the arrangement. He watches the light, she watches him. The island sleeps inside the 2, watches like a child between parents. Her day, which ended last of anyone's, is stacked and ready for its beginning, which will come first of anyone's. The stove is banked to her own hand, the kettle filled, the breakfast laid out in her mind, like the keeper's tools on their shelf. The bread sponge is rising slow in its covered crock in the warm corner, set at 9, time to the household's clock as surely as the light is timed to the sun's. The mending basket has gone down by 2 stockings and a cuff, and under her pillow in its oilcloth wrap is the station's other essential book, nowhere named in the regulations, the household ledger of her own keeping, hens and butter, flour and lessons, the children's growth marked in pencil on the pantry door frame, the small exact administration of 11 acres of family, kept in a hand as steady as the logs. The establishment, in its wisdom, pays one salary to this island. The island, in its wisdom, knows better. When the inspector's cutter stands in each spring and that courtly man climbs the slip, he inspects one keeper and greets, with his particular respect, the other one. And the tower gleams for both of them. And everyone understands everything, in the way of well-run worlds. The lamp is trimmed, and the light goes round, and beneath it in the dark cottage, the second watch holds its post between one breath and the next, unpaid, unlogged, unfailing, as it has in every household of every winter we have ever kept. Step outside once more, well wrapped, down the snowy path to the cove, because the island's night does not belong to the humans and the lamp alone, and the sea's own citizens are keeping their winter night all around the station, and no census of this rock is honest without them. The tide is low and quiet, and the ledges wear their ice collars above the dark weed. In the cove's shelter the eiders have rafted for the night, 60 or 80 of them, a dark drowsing island of ducks riding the slow swell, each with its beak tucked in its wing feathers, the raft rotating imperceptibly as they paddle in their sleep, keeping their formation as loosely and faithfully as the horse herds of the plains kept theirs in the cottonwoods. Now and then one wakes, sips, resettles. Their small, contented gabble comes over the water at intervals, the sound of a bunkhouse of sailors turning over. Off the outer point, where the seals have their ledges, the harbor seals are hauled up in the cold like sleek boulders, breathing their slow, whiskery breaths, and a bull's cough carries across the calm now and then. Unalarmed, proprietary, they fish these waters by night as well as day, and a swimmer's head shows for a moment in the beams passing gold, considers the island with round black eyes as it has been considered by their kind since before any tower stood here, and slides under again about its silver business. In the rockweed, unseen, the winter periwinkles and the barnacles keep their patient stations through the freezing ebb, and the sea itself breathes its long two-count against the granite, in and out, the oldest respiration on earth, the one every other sleeper's breathing on this island unconsciously keeps time with. And over it all, the birds of the winter dark pass on their errands. A black-backed gull ghosts along the tide line on set wings. Old squaw ducks somewhere off the point talk their strange musical talk to one another across the water, a sound like distant sleigh bells arguing sweetly. Once on the beam's turn, an owl from the mainland woods crosses the island's back on business of its own, silent as the light itself, and Ballast the cat, on her own last patrol of the boat slip, flattens respectfully in the shadow of the winch and files the incident. We may guess, under professional. We have learned this lesson on every shore and step and city wall, and the sea teaches it once more, gently tonight. The night is not empty. It is occupied competently by nations who never needed lamps, keeping their watches all around ours, the raft and the ledge and the tide line each with its own arrangements, the whole dark sea breathing peacefully at the foot of the one human light. The lamp is trimmed, and the light goes round, and the eiders ride their raft, and the seals hold their ledges inside its turning gold, fellow islanders, fellow sleepers, wards of the same night. There is a book that is never written on this coast, and tonight, in the calm, in the wheeling gold, is the right hour to read from it, because it is the true product of this island and every island like it, and it is made entirely of things that did not happen. Consider what tonight's entry would say if anyone kept it. The schooner Abigail did not find the ledges south of the island, because she knew to a quarter mile where they were, because the light told her. The coaster, whose lantern the keeper marked at midnight, did not mistake this headland for the next, because this light flashes and the next burns steady, and the difference, legible 14 miles out, is the whole difference. No family down the coast was wakened tonight by the signal gun of a vessel ashore. No boats put out into freezing surf. No name was added to the stones in the mainland churchyard, where this coast keeps its hardest arithmetic. Nothing happened all night, anywhere in the light's 14-mile parish, and nothing will. And that enormous nothing was manufactured, hour by hour, by a man with trimming scissors and a woman listening to a stairway, and by 40 other households like theirs down the whole dark coast. The trade knows this arithmetic without ever writing it. The mainland knows it in its bones, if not its ledgers. Before this tower stood, this island's ledges took their toll like all the others, and the old men of the harbor can still name the vessels their grandfathers lost, the way old soldiers name battles. Then the tower was built, a generation ago, and the toll simply stopped, and the stopping was silent, the way all the best work of all our nights has been silent. Safety has no anniversaries. Nobody holds a service for the wreck that didn't happen. The rescued do not know they were rescued, and that is the deepest kindness in the whole arrangement. Thousands of sailors over the years sailing past this rock in easy ignorance, their closest call converted by a steady light into an uneventful Tuesday. We have stood before this idea all season, in every uniform it wears. The watchman whose clapper never beat the fire rhythm, the granaries against the lean year that did not come, the bell that sleeps. It is the great secret of the keeping professions in every century, and the keeper of this light would state it plainly if asked, though no one asks. You cannot count what a kept watch prevents. You can only keep it, and let the nothing pile up, night upon night, in the unwritten book, which is the best kept ledger on this coast, and the proudest. The lamp is trimmed, and the light goes round, and the ledger of nothing receives, hour by silent hour, another perfect page. Look northwest from the gallery one more time before the deep hours, at the low black whaleback of the mainland, because the coast the light serves is sleeping its own winter sleep over there, a mile and a half of dark water away, and it is worth one slow visit, the way we visited the neighbors of every other night. The harbor village lies behind its point, out of the wind, a crescent of white houses around a frozen-edged anchorage where the fishing fleet sits out the deep winter. Schooners and pinkies on their moorings, decks snow-covered, gear ashore, waiting for the spring mackerel the way the plum tree waited for its blossoms. One or two riding lights burn among them for form's sake. Along the shore road the houses stand dark. Sea captains' houses with their widows walk snowed quiet. Fishermen's cottages banked to the sills with spruce boughs against the drafts. The meeting-house spire holding its dark finger over all of it. Behind the village the farms begin, stone-walled fields asleep under snow, barns full of warm cattle breath, wood lots waiting for the February axe. A late lamp burns in the doctor's window, and one in the parsonage study, and everything else is banked fires and slow breathing. The whole town gone down together like a crew. The island family belongs to that shore and stands a little apart from it, in the way of all light keepers. Their letters and flour come from it. Their cousins fill its pews. Their children will likely marry into its kitchens. The boy pulls across for errands, and the loan of books when the weather serves, and the whole family crosses for the great occasions. And the town, for its part, sets its clocks a little by the light, watches for it on bad nights the way you watch a neighbor's chimney smoke, and speaks of the keeper's family with the settled respect This coast reserves for people who do exacting things reliably. A mile and a half of cold water is a real distance in winter, and it is also nothing at all. The kitchen window of the cottage and the lamp in the doctor's window can see each other tonight across the black tide, two small steady lights on opposite shores, and between them lies the whole visible catalogue of what they both defend. Somewhere over there, in one of the dark houses under the spire, a retired keeper is asleep. The man who kept this island's light for 22 years before our keeper's 9, and who still, his daughter reports, wakes without fail at midnight and listens a moment to nothing to the old errand before sleep takes him back. The light he cannot see from his inland room goes round all the same. Some watches outlast their watchmen kindly. The lamp is trimmed, and the light goes round, and the mainland sleeps behind its point with its fleet at anchor, and its fires banked. One more warm shore inside the beam's long, patient circle. Down in the Cove's sheltered north corner, where the boy reported ice making at supper, the winter is conducting its slowest engineering project, and the deep of a still cold night is exactly when the work goes forward. So drift down the path once more and watch the sea itself being put to sleep, a few feet at a time. Salt water freezes grudgingly, colder and slower than the ponds ashore, and only where the sea lies stillest, here in the Cove's innermost bight, out of the swell, over the flats where a freshwater brook thins the brine. The cold has been gaining for a week. First came the grease ice, the strange silken slicks where the water goes heavy and matte, moving like oil, the sea's surface thickening toward decision. Then the pancakes, plates of young ice the size of trays, rimmed and jostling, riding the last of the ripple, knocking their soft rims together with a sound like distant crockery. And now, tonight in the stillness, the plates are locking. Along the tide line, the ice stands in tilted shelves, where the ebb has stranded it, and the new sheet grows out from the shore, a hand's breadth in an hour, mineral gray in the starlight, printed at its edge with the day's last gull tracks, groaning small private groans as the tide breathes underneath it. The island hears the Cove ice the way it hears everything, as information. Ice to the moorings means the dory hauls out, and the crossings wait for a fair chance. Ice in the Cove means the eiders shift to the outer point, and the boys' fishing moves to the ledges. Hard winters, the old men say, the bay itself has caught from shore to island, and men have walked the mile and a half over green saltwater ice with the tide groaning under them. A thing done soberly, with a pole, twice in the last keeper's time and once in this one's. And the keeper walked it that once and prefers, he says, the dory. But tonight the ice is only the Cove's own quiet business, a few acres of the Atlantic being gentled to stillness in a granite corner, and the sound of it is one of the great small sounds of the northern winter night. The soft crockery of the pancakes, the long faint creak of the growing sheet, the sigh of the tide turning under the young ice, lifting it a fraction all along its length, like breath under a quilt. The sea which will not truly sleep, here at its stillest margin lying down at least, at the island's feet in the cold. The lamp is trimmed, and the light goes round, and its gold crosses the young gray ice at every turn, the newest floor in the parish, laid silently, an hour at a time, by the oldest builder on the coast. The night is at its clearest now, dark and glittering from rim to rim, and the great winter figures stand over the island in their full, frost-hard brilliance. And since this coast lives by them as surely as any grandmother of the steppe ever did, give the sailors' stars their chapter from the gallery rail, before the deep hours close. The keeper reads them as his trade, and his years before the mast taught him. And it is a working page. The great winter square and the hunter with his belted three, standing high south of the tower, the coast's grandest clock, the dog star burning below, brightest of all the fixed lights, flickering its colors near the sea rim like a signal lamp with opinions, the dippers wheeling their slow circle about the pole star, the one star that never moves, the nail of the sky, the first thing every green hand on every vessel of this age is taught to find, because to find it is to know north forever after, in any darkness from any deck. The keeper found it at 17 from the foretop of his first schooner, shown by a Nova Scotia boatswain with a pipe, and he showed it to his own boy at 7 from this rail. And the boy will show it one day to hands and children of his own, and that handing down, mast to mast, rail to rail, is as old as boats and older than any tower, and the stars are more than the clock and compass of this coast. They are its long memory. The same figures the keeper reads stood over the Tang astronomer's frosted rings, over the Lakota grandmother naming her winter constellation to the camp, over the old woman at the smoke hole of the bone house, and they have not moved, to any eye's discernment, in all the nights between. Every navigator of this age knows the strange companionship of that fact. A man alone on a night watch in the middle of an ocean is keeping company, whether he thinks of it or not, with every watcher who ever looked up, the whole unbroken line of them, all reading the one page that never needed reprinting. The sextant in the sea chest below exists to turn that page into position, angles taken between star and sea rim, worked into latitude by lamplight on a chart table. But the older use needs no brass at all. Look up, find the nail of the sky, know where you are, small, warm, awake beneath the enormous ancient ceiling, which is where our kind has always been, and never once alone there. The beam wheels through the starlight, gold under silver under the old fixed fires, 3 kinds of light keeping 3 kinds of time, and all of them tonight in agreement. The lamp is trimmed, and the light goes round, and above it the oldest lights of all hold their stations without keeper or clockwork, the original chain of lights, burning down the whole coast of the sky. One more meditation before the moonset hours, and it is the deepest one this island owns, so let the beam turn us to it naturally, on its next pass. Consider, drowsily, with no dates required, how long our kind has been setting lights against this one particular darkness, the darkness at the edge of the sea, and what a line this small tower stands at the end of. It began, past all record, with fires on headlands. Someone's people were out after dark in boats, and someone ashore who loved them built a blaze on the high ground to call them home. And that is the whole invention, complete in its first evening. Everything since is elaboration. The fishing villages of every coast on earth kept their beacon fires, and their lit windows time out of mind. The ancient world raised the fire onto platforms, and then onto towers, and at Alexandria, whose lamplit library we once spent a night in, they raised it 400 feet into the Mediterranean sky and made it one of the wonders of the earth. A bonfire in a stone giant's hand, visible, the sailors swore, a day's sail out. The monks of the Dark Age headlands kept coal fires in iron baskets for the souls of sailors. The merchant cities hung lanterns in church towers, the way Edo hung its temple lamps, and the Tang canals lit their water gates. Coal gave way to candles ranked behind glass, candles to oil, plain flame to reflector. And within this very keeper's lifetime the French have perfected their great lenses, rings of cut glass that gather a flame's whole strength into one thrown spear of light. And the towers of the world are taking them on one by one, and this island's turn will come. But stand in the lamp room's gold, and feel how little underneath has changed. The technology climbs, as it climbed from hearth to hypo-cost to furnace, and the gesture at the center never moves. Someone's people are out in the dark. Someone stays up, keeps a fire, faces it seaward. That is a lighthouse, whatever it is built of. A headland blaze from before all record. 400 feet of Alexandrian marble, 50 feet of Maine granite with 8 argon burners. And the man trimming wicks above our heads tonight is the direct working descendant of every watcher who ever fed driftwood to a headland fire in the rain, and knows it. In the unexamined way, a man knows the trade in his hands is older than his name for it. The lamp is trimmed, and the light goes round, one small bright link in a chain of flames reaching back beyond all reckoning and forward past all guessing. And tonight on this coast, in this snow, the chain is bright and whole and holding. Because tonight is calm, and only because tonight is calm, there is room at the watchroom stove for one story of another kind of night, told the way the old man of the bone house told his deep snow winter, from the safe far shore of afterward, as proof of what the station is made of. The keeper does not tell it often, and never in rough weather, told on a still night, with the glass high and the sea asleep. It is not a fearful story at all. It is the opposite, and that is why we may have it before sleep. It was 4 winters ago, the great February gale that the whole coast still dates small events by. The glass had been falling for 2 days, and the island had done its quiet arithmetic, boats hauled and lashed, shutters barred, stock double-fed, oil carried up, bell wound. And when the storm came on at dusk, it came like a moving wall, snow and sea together, and by midnight the wind was one long steady roar, and the seas came marching onto the seaward face, their slow shocks rising through the granite into every floor of the house. And here is the whole of what happened. Through 14 hours of the worst this coast can do, the family slept, in their clothes, imperfectly but truly in the leeward rooms. The tower took the seas as its builders meant, shutter and shed, and the light burned. The keeper and his wife stood watch and watch about, up the spiral through the roaring dark, trimming by lantern with the tower humming like a struck bell, winding the clockwork, wiping the spray ice from inside the lantern panes. And the beams went out into the white chaos on their appointed period, all night, visible barely a mile, turning anyway, because the period is the promise, and somewhere beyond the wall of weather there might be one vessel running before it that needed one glimpse of gold at the right second to know the ledges from the sea room. There was such a vessel. They learned it 2 weeks after in a letter with a Boston mark, from the master of a lumber schooner that had spent that night clawing off this stretch of coast, who wrote, in the plain style of his trade, that he had raised the flash twice in the smother at about 2 in the morning, fixed his position by it, and weathered the point with room to spare, and begged to thank the keeper for the punctuality of his light. That letter lies in the sea chest now, with the mother's letters and the pressed flower. The keeper has read it perhaps 100 times. It is 11 lines long, and it is the whole meaning of his working life in one stranger's steady hand, and he would trade no flag or medal for it. And the story's ending is the part the family likes best, the part the children used to ask for by name. Morning, the wind gone down to mere weather, the sun out hard and glittering on a white sea still running mountains, the island cased in frozen spray like a ship come through ice, every window opaque with rime, and the whole family out on the sheltered side in the enormous scoured brightness, dazed and famished and entire, counting shingles gone, 1, and dory damage, none, and then the wife going in and frying by general demand, the largest breakfast in the station's recorded history, which is in the log in the plain style, if you know where to look. Heavy gale NE through the night, it says. Light maintained, all well. The lamp is trimmed, and the light goes round, and the gale is 4 winters gone, and the glass is high tonight. And the story sits by the stove with us like an old dog, quiet, finished, and proof. And every calm night on this island is one of its endings. Deep in the night, the moon comes up out of the sea, and a winter sea moonrise is the grandest free spectacle this coast owns. And tonight it is performed, as usual, to an audience of 1 lamp and no people. So let us be its people, briefly, from the gallery rail. It comes up a little south of east, old and waning now, a bright bent bowl of a moon riding low on its back, and it does not so much rise as surface. A deep orange horn first, large and slightly flattened, lifting out of the black horizon line like something patient coming up for air. The sea makes way for it grandly. A road of broken orange light lays itself down from the horizon straight toward the island, wave-tip to wave-tip across 4 miles of dark water, widening and paling as the moon climbs and shrinks and silvers, until the whole southeastern sea is a field of moving glimmer, and the moon rides small and hard and white above its own long wake. The snow on the island takes the light and goes pale blue. The tower's whitewash glows faintly, like a lamp chimney, and the beam, which owned the night alone until now, goes on wheeling through the moonlight undiminished, gold crossing silver, the 2 lights sharing the water without rivalry. The way the fire's glow shared the bone house with the moon column from the smoke hole so long ago. The keeper, up for the 3 o'clock trimming, steps out onto the gallery for his minute and takes in the moonrise with the sober appreciation of a man who has seen 1,000 of them, and rejects the idea that this should dull the next one. Moonlight is a working matter to him too, of course. A bright moon eases the night for every vessel on the water, shows the coasting men their headlands and their sea-room, gentles the whole parish. But he would stand here anyway, and does, mittens on the frosted rail, watching the silver road ripple, and thinking, if the truth of a quiet man may be guessed at, nothing at all, in the way that the best minutes of a night watch are for thinking nothing at all, in front of everything. Below, on the dark side of the island, the moon finds the cottage windows and lays its slow, pale oblongs on floors where nobody wakes. It crosses the children's ceiling between passes of the golden bar, silver between gold, the 2 great night lights of the human race taking turns over 3 sleeping heads. The little one, whose lion the gold bar is, has no name yet for the silver one. She has time. The moon is not going anywhere, and neither, for many years yet, is she. The lamp is trimmed, and the light goes round, and the moon lays its long road on the water beside the beams wheeling one, and for the rest of the night the sea is crossed by both, the kept light and the free one in step. The 3 o'clock trimming is done. And now comes the stretch the trade privately calls the long pull, the hours between 3 and dawn. And the keeper, this once, does not go straight back down to bed, because the stove in the little watchroom below the lamp deck is drawing well, and the kettle is on it. And some nights a man keeps the deep hours company for a while on purpose. Tonight is one, and we are invited. The watchroom is the tower's snug, a round, low chamber 1 turn of the stair below the light, with the clockwork weight sliding its greased channel down one wall, slow as honey, and a locker, a stool, a shelf of the establishment's printed instructions and the light lists, and 1 yellowed novel of sea voyages that came with the station and has been read by 3 keepers. The stove is the size of a milking pail, and heats the little room like a pocket. The keeper makes his tea, strong, sweet, in a mug with an anchor on it, and sits on the stool with his back to the warm iron. And above his head, through the open scuttle, the lamp room's gold turns and turns, and the clockwork ticks, and the tower hums its low note, and the sea breathes on the rocks below, and that is all, and that is plenty. This is the hour we have kept in every world, the hour with no neighbors, and it is worth noticing what it does to the ones who keep it professionally. It does not make them lonely, whatever the mainland thinks. It makes them wide. A man who sits regularly at the bottom of the night, warm, obligated, and alone, with his work turning steadily over his head, gets the freedom of rooms in himself that daylight people never furnish. The keeper, on these stove-warmed stools of the long pole, has relived his 18 years of voyages at leisure, buried his parents properly, planned his children's futures in several versions, argued theology with the minister to a standstill and shaken hands, and watched, in memory, every sunrise of a life spent almost entirely within sound of the sea. None of this shows at breakfast. All of it is why keepers, as a class, are calm the way deep water is calm, and why their families sleep the way harbors sleep. He reads a page or two of the sea voyages, loses the thread agreeably, and lets the mug warm his hands instead. Above the light wheels, out there the parish sleeps, wet and dry alike. The weight slides down its wall so slowly that watching it is a kind of rest. The lamp is trimmed, and the light goes round, and one flight below it, in a round, warm room in the middle of the dark, its keeper drinks his tea at the still point of the whole turning night, on watch, at peace, which are, on this island, the same word. Under the tower, under the snow, under the cottage and the sleeping family, there is one more keeper of this station, the oldest and largest one, and in the deep hours it deserves its chapter, because everything else tonight stands on it. The island itself, the granite, the rock of this island is old, past comfortable imagining. The roots of mountains that stood here before there was an Atlantic to wear them down, cooled slow in the deep earth, ground and rounded by the ice sheets that lay a mile thick over this coast. They left behind, in going, the polish and the scratches. A keeper's boy can still lay his mitten in, along the summit ledges, 11 acres of it, gray and pink, whorled and seamed, standing out of the sea like the back of something patient beyond all patience. The tide has beaten it twice a day since the sea arrived, and has, in all that time, rounded its edges somewhat. Winter has pried at its seams with ice for 100 centuries and split off, here and there, a slab. The granite has noticed none of this, in any sense that granite notices, and will outlast the tower, the coast trade, the establishment, and every name in the log books. And there is no gloom whatever in that thought at 3 in the morning. There is the opposite. It is the steadiest floor in the world. The builders knew it. The tower is not set on the island so much as grown into it. Its lowest courses stepped and led it into the living ledge, stone married to stone, so that when the great gales come, and the seas stand up gray and enormous and burst against the seaward face, the shock that runs up through the granite and the masonry and the spiral stair and the keeper's boot soles is one single connected shudder, rock and tower and man all of a piece, and the light at the top does not so much as tremble in its turning. The keeper has stood in the lamp room through such nights, with the whole Atlantic in full cry against his foundations, and what he felt through his feet, he will tell you, was not danger. It was the island, holding the way it holds tonight in the calm, the way it held before anyone came, immovable under the snow, bearing up its little cargo of lamp and family and cow and cat without effort, without opinion, without end. We have slept on many floors this season, hide and brick, plank and warmed kang, Under all of them always was this, the one under everything doing the final keeping. Tonight on this island it is close enough to touch, and the snow lies quiet on its back, and the light turns above it like a small bright thought over a very long memory. The lamp is trimmed, and the light goes round, and beneath lamp and keeper and cottage and cove, the granite keeps its own watch, which began before watches, and has never once needed winding. And so the island arrives, as every world of ours arrives, at the hour with no neighbors, the bottom of the vault, somewhere past 4 by the kitchen clock, and the sea and the snow and the light keep it together, and we will keep it with them, standing still one last time in the middle of the night's held breath. The moon stands low and small in the southeast now, the silver road drawn in close to the island. The cold has reached its deepest mark, and the last loose things have gone still. The Ida raft rides its slow rotation, every beak tucked. The seals lie like their own ledges. The mainland is one unbroken darkness behind its point, the 2 neighbor lights holding their names to no visible traffic, one flashing, one steady, the sea empty of lanterns to the horizon, every coaster of the evening long since handed down the chain to other waters, every fisherman home behind banked fires. The swell has gone down to a long, slow, glassy breathing, the quietest the sea ever gets on this coast, a sound like the whole Atlantic turning over once in its sleep under a quilt of moonlight. Inside the cottage, the deep hour holds its census without being asked. 5 sleepers, stove banked, kettle filled, bread sponge rising in its crock like a 6th slow sleeper. Cat coiled in the warm angle behind the stove having concluded her rounds. Log ruled off, boots drying, mittens paired. The whole small nation squared away and breathing in time with its shore. And above it all the lamp room does its solitary shining, wicks full, clockwork wound, weight sliding its slow inches, beams wheeling out over a parish in which, for this 1 hour, absolutely no one is awake to need them, and shining exactly as brightly for that, which is, if you want it in one sentence, the whole creed of the keeping professions, and the reason we have spent our nights with them all season. Because this hour, we have learned by now, is not empty, on an island least of all. It is the fullest hour of the watch. Every trimmed wick and hauled cord of the island's day was aimed here, at 5 people and 1 light sound asleep and wide awake in the middle of the sea, respectively, each doing it perfectly. The stillness is the harvest. The turning beam is its keeper, and 14 miles of moonlit water in every direction is, for this hour, the calmest inhabited place on earth. And since this is the last, deepest hour of our long season of them, let it gather the others in for a moment, drowsily, the way the beam gathers the sea. Somewhere far up the river of nights, a girl of 15 sleeps beside a banked bed of coals in a house of mammoth bone, 1 ear on her fire. A boy stands his watch under a cottonwood, while a lodge breathes behind him. A porter walks a lamplit library. A monk keeps the small hours office. A furnace man dreams of good draught in a cellar under a snowbound avenue. A walnut-faced gatekeeper drowses at his wicket with 1 ear on the lane. None of them ever met. All of them are the same person, the one our kind posts at the edge of the dark, wherever the dark has an edge. And tonight the post is a glass room over the Atlantic, and the watch is a wheel of gold, and the watcher is asleep below it with his boots by the stove, because he built his vigilance a machine and taught it his promise. That is the whole long story we have been telling all these winters, told once more in brass and granite. Somebody keeps the fire, everybody sleeps. The night passes kept, the lamp is trimmed, and the light goes round, and the deepest hour passes over the island like the shadow of a great slow wing, and finds the light on, and the family down, and everything holding. And in the last deep hour before the turn, the sleepers dream, all 5 of them and the cat, and by the oldest custom of our nights together, we will wander our way once around the little island before morning, gently, bed by bed, since wandering is a lullaby, and there is no one awake on 11 acres to correct us. The little one dreams of the lion, of course, who in the dream comes down off the ceiling at last and turns out to be exactly as warm as expected, and walks the island's paths with her at a stately pace, gold and patient, and lets the hens alone. And this is a dream she will have, in one form or another, for the rest of a long life, and never once mentioned to anyone. The scholar dreams in numbers that behave, tide tables and multiplication coming out even, the beam crossing the ceiling on its perfect period, and somewhere in the dream this all connects, earth turning, light turning, sums proving, and she is briefly, at 9, in her sleep, entirely satisfied with the universe, which is more than most philosophers manage awake. The boy dreams of the dory and open water, oars in his fists, the island astern and the whole bright bay ahead, pulling strong towards something splendid and unspecified, which is 13 exactly, and correct. The wife dreams of the garden under the snow, rows planned and planted in green, and of bread rising, and of a certain blue dress pattern in the spring catalogue, and of nothing that needs anything from her, which is the worker's paradise and hers by right. The keeper dreams in weather, as he has since his first voyage, fair skies moving in slow procession over remembered seas, and somewhere through every dream of his, faint and regular as his own pulse, a light flashes on its period, and he counts it in his sleep, and it is always right, and that is why he wakes rested. Ballast the cat dreams her sovereign dreams behind the stove, of the winch shadow and the owl, of tribute and territory, twitching one white-gloved paw, and the cow dreams whatever cows dream in deep straw, which the boy maintains is grass, and no one on this island is qualified to contradict him. Say the tower dreams too, then, since everything else on the rock is dreaming. Say it dreams what lighthouses would dream, of every lamp it has carried and every gale it has shouldered, of the 10,000 vessels that have passed it safe and never known its name, all their wakes long since smoothed over, all their cargoes long since home. Say the granite under everything dreams its million-year dreams, ice and fire and patience, too slow for any night to hold, and over all of it the beam goes round, gold on the snow, gold on the water, the one thing on the island that never sleeps, keeping the one watch that lets every other watcher off duty, all the way down to the smallest dreamer and her lion. The lamp is trimmed, and the light goes round, and behind 3 closed doors and 1 stove corner the island's private worlds turn quietly inside the turning of the light, safe as anything has ever been, anywhere, in the one shared dark. Somewhere past 5, the night begins its long turn, and the island feels it before any eye could prove it, and the last watch of the dark is the gentlest one, so keep it with us, drowsing, while the world comes slowly back toward its shape. The moon hangs thin and pale in the southeast now, fading as the sky lightens around it, its road on the water dissolving into the gray. In the east, over the open sea, the horizon line grows a shade more certain of itself, black against a black that is no longer quite the same black, the first unprovable loosening we have watched arrive over step and plain and city wall and avenue, arriving now over open ocean, which wears it best of all. The morning star stands up out of the sea rim into the clear, cold, burning steady, the sailor's own planet, and the keeper, up for the 5 o'clock trimming, marks it through the lantern glass and gives it its old name under his breath, Day Star. The way the fishermen's grandfathers said it, half fact, half greeting. The island citizens feel the turn, each in their kind. The eider raft loosens, a bird at a time, wings shaken, small sips taken, the gabble warming up like an orchestra pit. The seals shift on their ledges, and the first sleek head puts out to sea on the dawn tide's business. In the barn, the cow rises with the deliberate ceremony of her kind, and the hens begin their low pre-dawn parliament. And Ballast the cat completes her final round and takes up her post on the woodshed sill, facing east, entirely aware, in the way of cats, of exactly what is about to be performed there. In the cottage, the stove gets its first fresh wood from the wife's practiced hand in the half-dark, and the kettle goes over the new flame, and the bread sponge, risen in the night like everything else that was banked and trusted, is turned out floury onto the board, and the first working sounds of the island's day begin under the last turning of the island's night, and the keeper in the lamp room performs the 5 o'clock offices with the unhurried special care of the last round, wicks trimmed for their final hour, clockwork given its last winding though it scarcely needs it, the log slate carried down for the fair copy, wind north, light air, clear, sea smooth, all well, the plain style closing out one more entry in its 10,000 night book. Then he stands his minute at the glass, the long one, and watches the east go from iron to slate to the first impossible gray rose, and the beams wheel out over a sea that is beginning, just barely, to have a surface again. And he waits for the exact minute his trade has waited for since towers first were lit, the minute the instructions call sunrise, and the coast calls lamps out, and no keeper anywhere has ever needed a clock to find. The lamp is trimmed, and the light goes round for the last hour now, the night's work nearly folded, the days already rising warm below, and between them, on the cold glass of the lantern, the dawn beginning to breathe. And so at last, at the far end of the great vault of the night, the hour before dawn comes to the island, the way it has come to every world we have kept together, quietly from the east, over the open sea, without any hurry at all, and with no one to command it and no way to delay it, which is, the keeper would tell you, exactly the right constitution for a sunrise. It comes up the sky in bands, iron, slate, dove, rose, the sea taking each shade a half step behind, until the water lies pale and pearled from the island to the edge of the world, and the last stars step back into the deepening blue. The mainland assembles itself out of the dark, point by point, spire by spire, the harbor village white against its snowy fields, chimney smoke beginning to stand up straight from house after house, the whole shore relit for living. The two neighbor lights burn paler and paler in the growing day, their nights' names nearly spoken out. Ice glitters on the ledges, the eiders are talking all together now, and the gulls are up and about their loud opinions, and the first chimney smoke of the village is answered, across 1.5 miles of rose-gray water, by the cottage's own, rising from the wife's new fire straight into the still morning air, two warm breaths greeting each other across the tide, as they have every clear morning for 9 years, and in the lamp room, at the appointed minute, with the suns coming close below the horizon and the whole east on fire with it, the keeper puts the light to bed, burner by burner, in the reverse of the evening's order, landward first, seaward last. The flames are lowered and snuffed, the wheeling beams failing one by one until the room holds only day. The clockwork is let run down its little remainder and stopped. The linen covers go over the reflectors. The apparatus stilled and dressed like a fine instrument after the concert. The lamp room, so long the brightest place on the coast, becomes a quiet glass chamber full of morning, panes rose and gold, sea shining in all its windows, and the keeper stands in it 1 minute more, mug of tea long cold on the sill, looking out at his parish in the young light, every vessel of the night delivered, every ledge where it belongs, the ledger of nothing complete for one more date, then down the 42 steps, through the covered way, into the kitchen's warmth and bread smell and the first tousled child at the table, and the island's day is fairly begun, and the island's night, the whole faithful turning length of it, is folded away westward with all the others complete. It rested its family, it carried its ships, it kept from lighting to extinguishing. Every promise it made at dusk, which was one promise, made in gold once every 2 minutes all night long. The lamp is trimmed, and the light goes round. It was true at dusk, and it was true at midnight, and it was true at the bottom of the dark. And now it stands relieved in the honorable way of night watches, by the sun itself, the one lamp no keeper has ever had to trim, taking the sky on its long-proved schedule, while a small tower on 11 acres stands down till evening. Let it be true for you as well. Whatever the night holds where you are, may there be a light in it that someone faithful keeps, and may you sleep the whole dark through inside its turning, deeply, safely, all the way to a morning that arrives, as this one has, gently on time and shining. Asleep now. This was worlds before morning. Good night.